Now, millions of people are set to face poverty in retirement. That's the warning from Ros Altmann, former government pension advisor. According to a new report, she says the pension model of relying on stock markets to deliver income has been little more than a bet on equities, and it's failed. For more, we're joined by Dr. Ros Altmann. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. If you're not going to put money in equities, where do you get your pension pot from? Bearing in mind that the onus for saving for your retirement is very much now on the individual and far less on the corporate or the government.
That's absolutely right. I mean, the state pension has been cut consistently over the last 20, 30 years. Employers have been pulling out of pensions at a rate of knots over the last few years. Individuals are on their own, and they've been led to believe that there's only one thing you should do if you want to save for the long term, and that's to put as much money as you can in the stock market. And what I'm saying is that I'm not sure that that advice is as prudent as it needs to be, because what you're seeing at the moment is millions of people coming up for retirement who are facing poverty when they retire because their pensions haven't worked out, because the risks that they faced with their pensions, in particular, for example, by relying so heavily on the stock market, have actually not worked out in their favour. They didn't necessarily get honest information when they went in, and therefore they are now facing the problem that their pensions haven't delivered.
Well, I'm sure David Kerr, our guest, is going to have a reaction to that, but surely the problem here is not that you shouldn't be putting money into equities, is that actually we should have kept with the system we had, which meant that companies felt comfortable and able to keep their final salary schemes. I mean, surely the problem here is that we've created a culture and environment which means it's no longer viable for companies to run the final salary schemes that were in place.
Part of the problem for that is that those final salary schemes themselves were relying on the stock market to always deliver. And about 80% of the assets in UK final salary pension schemes around 2000 were invested in the stock market, and they have been decimated. But what I guess I'm trying to point out here, in a report that I've published today, which was commissioned by the big insurer MetLife, is that we need to challenge some of this investment thinking and understand that there is a scenario out there where even over the long term, equities might let you down. And in fact, saving for a pension contains all kinds of risks, part of which relate to the stock market, part of which relate to people living longer or to the risks of inflation, and that just relying on equities to deliver as much as you need to pay decent pensions maybe should never have been the basis of our system. And certainly going forward, I think people need to recognise that even over the long term, there isn't any guarantee that you as a pension investor, whether it's a big pension fund or an individual pension scheme, will actually be able to rely on being rewarded by investing in the stock market. You might need to consider some insurance, for example, against falling markets. If final salary schemes had that kind of system in place, maybe more of them would be open now. They didn't. They were let down. The stock market fell substantially, and also, of course, people were living longer and interest rates have been falling, which has all hit pension provision. Nobody really knew that they needed to insure against that because they thought there was this kind of blind faith that the stock market would always be fine over the long term, and it hasn't worked.